You know what a megalodon looked like. You have seen it 100 times. A great white shark scaled up to the length of a school bus. Torpedo-shaped, slate grey, jaws hinged wide enough to swallow a person standing upright. It is on the movie posters. It is in the documentaries. It is the default image of prehistoric terror, the animal that made the ocean itself something to be afraid of. Here is the problem. No one has ever found one. Not a complete skeleton. Not close. In more than a century of digging, not a single intact megalodon has ever come out of the ground. Sharks are built mostly from cartilage rather than bone, and cartilage almost never fossilizes. So what we actually have, after all this time, is teeth. Big teeth, thousands of them, and a scattering of vertebrae. And that is essentially the entire physical record of the largest shark that ever lived. Everything else is a reconstruction. The shape you are picturing right now, the bulk, the great white silhouette, all of it is extrapolation. An educated guess stacked on top of other educated guesses, repeated so many times that it hardened into something that feels like fact. And in 2024, 2 scientists pulled one of those guesses apart and found that the most famous reconstruction of this animal had been built on a measurement that disagreed with itself. Start with what is real, because it is genuinely staggering. Megalodon teeth are the size of your hand. The biggest ones run over 16 centimeters from tip to root, serrated along both edges like a steak knife, and heavy enough that holding one feels wrong, more like holding a tool than a tooth. They turn up on coastlines and riverbeds all over the world because Megalodon lived nearly everywhere warm for roughly 20 million years, before vanishing about 3.5 million years ago. Think about what that means for a second. We have thousands of these teeth. Museums keep drawers full of them. Collectors keep them on shelves. We have more physical pieces of Megalodon than we have of almost any other extinct predator on the planet. And we have never once seen its body. We have held this animal's teeth in our hands for 200 years, and we have never known, with any real certainty, what shape it came in. That gap between how much we have and how little we actually know is the whole story. And a tooth, on its own, does not tell you how big an animal was. Not really. To turn a tooth into a body length, you need a living animal whose tooth-to-body ratio you already know, so you can scale up from it. That is the entire method. You measure the fossil tooth, you find a living shark you believe is close enough, and you enlarge it to fit, which means the size of Megalodon was never read directly off the fossil at all. It was always borrowed from whichever living shark scientists decided was the right stand-in. Choose a different stand-in, and the whole animal changes shape and size around you. For most of the time people have studied these teeth, one comparison did all the work. The great white shark. Great whites also have serrated triangular teeth. They are the largest predatory sharks alive today, and for a long time scientists believed the two were close relatives, branches of the same family tree. So the logic was simple. If you want to know what the animal behind these teeth looked like, look at the living shark with the most similar teeth and scale it up. That is exactly what happened. In 1996, one influential study took the proportions of a great white and enlarged them to match Megalodon's teeth, and produced the number that has haunted every estimate since. A maximum length somewhere around 60 feet, a supersized great white. The image was born, it was reasonable, and it went everywhere. There was just one assumption sitting underneath it that nobody had actually tested. The assumption was that Megalodon was shaped like a great white in the first place. Over the last couple of decades, that got shakier. As researchers looked closer at the teeth and the lineage, the consensus shifted. Megalodon was not a close cousin of the great white after all. It belonged to a different branch entirely, a genus called Otodus, separated from the great whites family by tens of millions of years of independent evolution. The resemblance in the teeth was partly convergence, two predators arriving at a similar cutting tool for similar reasons, not proof of a shared body plan. Convergence like that is everywhere in the ocean. Dolphins, sharks, and long-extinct marine reptiles all arrived at a similar streamlined shape without being close relatives, because the water rewards the same handful of solutions over and over. A shared tooth design between Megalodon and the great white was suggestive, but on its own, it was never proof that the two animals were built the same way underneath. It was a resemblance quietly doing the work of evidence. That should have been a problem. If the two sharks were not close relatives, then using one to reconstruct the other was standing on much thinner ice than it looked. But the great white model stayed, partly out of habit, and partly because, as one of the scientists in this story later put it, there was simply no better alternative on the shelf. You cannot reconstruct an animal out of nothing. So the familiar silhouette persisted, not because the evidence demanded it, but because it was the only picture anyone had. And then, in 2022, a new study tried to do better and accidentally set the whole thing up to fall. The 2022 team did something the earlier work could not. Instead of scaling up a living great white, they worked from an actual Megalodon vertebral column, a rare surviving set of the animal's own backbones, housed in a museum in Belgium. They measured each vertebra, laid them out in sequence, and built a full three-dimensional reconstruction of the shark around them. It was careful, it was detailed, and it produced a Megalodon around 16 meters long, close to 50 feet, along with estimates of its weight, its cruising speed, even how quickly it grew. That reconstruction became the new definitive image. It was shared everywhere, treated as the most rigorous portrait of the animal yet produced. And in fairness, it was a real advance. For the first time, the shape was anchored to Megalodon's own bones, not a stand-in. But the 2022 model kept one thing from all the work before it. It still assumed that the body wrapped around those bones was shaped like a great white's, and that single inherited assumption is what two other scientists decided to check. Their names are Kenshu Shimada, a paleobiologist at DePaul University in Chicago, and Philip Stearns, at the time a shark biologist working toward his doctorate. They were studying the 2022 reconstruction and the Belgian specimen underneath it when Stearns noticed something that stopped them both. The same set of vertebrae had been measured before. Back in the 1990s, an earlier study had looked at that exact Belgian individual and estimated its total length a different way, using the diameter of the vertebrae and how that scales with body size. That older method had put the animal at around 9 meters. The 2022 study, adding the same vertebrae end to end, had put it at over 11 meters. Same fossil, same bones. Two published lengths, more than 2 meters apart, and for years they had simply sat in the scientific literature side by side without anyone lining them up. Shimada called it a eureka moment, and you can see why. A 2-meter disagreement on a single animal is not a rounding error. It meant at least one of the standard methods for sizing this shark was badly off. And it meant the confident numbers everyone had been repeating rested on foundations that did not even agree with each other. The most studied extinct shark on Earth, and its most basic measurement, its length, was quietly contradicting itself in plain sight. If you're enjoying this, take a second to subscribe. I dig into one of these every week. So they went back to the vertebrae themselves and asked a more uncomfortable question. Not how long was it, what shape was it? What they found, once they stopped assuming a great white and looked at the proportions the bones actually implied, was that Megalodon's vertebrae were too slender for the body everyone had drawn. A great white is barrel-chested, thick through the middle, built like a muscular torpedo. The Megalodon vertebral column did not support that bulk. Wrap a body of the right proportions around those bones, and you do not get a giant great white. You get something longer, leaner, more elongated. In their 2024 paper, Shimada, Sternes, and more than 24 colleagues laid this out. And the comparison they reached for was not a great white at all. It was closer to a mako, and then, as they refined it, closer still to a lemon shark. A long, slim, streamlined body, the kind that moves through water with less drag and less effort. Stearns put it plainly. That shape, he said, makes a lot more sense for moving efficiently through water across the enormous distances this animal would have traveled. Sit with that for a second, because it is a strange demotion. The most terrifying predator in the history of the ocean, the great white of nightmares blown up to bus-sized proportions, and the best current evidence says it was shaped less like a torpedo and more like a very, very large lemon shark. And the shape is not a cosmetic detail. This is not just about whether the animal looked lean or bulky in a museum diagram. Almost everything we think we know about how Megalodon lived was inferred from its body. How fast it could swim, how far it could range across open ocean, how it accelerated, how it turned, how it ran down prey the size of whales. All of that flows from the proportions of the body, and all of it had been calculated from a great white scaled up to enormous size. Change the body from a thick, powerful torpedo to a long, efficient cruiser, and you do not just change the picture, you change the biography. A leaner shark moves differently, hunts differently, spends its energy differently. The animal's entire way of life was resting on the one assumption that turned out to be the shakiest. You might expect a slimmer Megalodon to also be a smaller one. This is where it turns, and where the honesty has to kick in, because the story does not resolve into a clean new number. It splits. The 2024 work, focused on that one Belgian individual, actually pointed smaller, toward the 9-meter end for that specific animal, rather than the 11 everyone had been using. But then, in 2025, a much larger group, around 29 shark experts, took the slender body and ran the numbers across nearly complete and partial vertebral columns from Belgium and Denmark, compared against 170 species of living and extinct sharks, and they came back with almost the opposite headline. Slimmer, yes, but at the top end, potentially far longer than the old estimates. Up to about 24 meters, nearly 80 feet. 80 feet is not a supersized great white. It is approaching the length of a blue whale. By that estimate, the largest megalodons may have weighed something like 90 tons and given birth to pups already around 4 meters long, born bigger than a fully grown great white ever gets. There is even a wrinkle inside the spread. Earlier work had suggested Megalodon's size may have depended on where it lived, with individuals in colder waters growing larger than those in warm ones. So there may never have been a single answer to how big Megalodon got, any more than there is a single answer to how tall a person is. There was a spread, shaped by geography, and we are trying to recover the very top of that spread from a few scattered fragments. So the animal did not simply shrink or simply grow. Its shape changed, and its size cracked open into a genuine range that the field is still arguing over right now. Because that is the part the movie posters leave out. None of this is settled. When the 2025 estimate came out, other paleontologists pushed back, and they were right to, pointing out that you are still building an 80-foot animal out of teeth and a handful of vertebrae, and that every step of that reconstruction carries assumptions that could be wrong. The slender body is the leading view now among the researchers who did this work. But there is no complete skeleton to confirm it, and there may never be. The ocean floor tends to keep its cartilage. To actually settle this, someone would need to find what has never been found. A megalodon preserved whole, or close to it, its body outline intact, the way a handful of extraordinary fossils have captured the shape of other soft-bodied sea creatures. It is not impossible. Preservation like that does happen, rarely, under exactly the right conditions. But in over a century of looking, across every continent, it has not happened once for this animal. Until it does, the shape stays an argument. And it is worth sitting with how strange that is, given how certain the popular image feels. Megalodon has starred in blockbuster films. It headlines television specials every single year. It is one of the most recognizable animals that has ever lived, extinct or otherwise. And almost every frame of that fame is built on a body no one has ever actually seen. The confidence is entirely borrowed. We are all picturing the same shark in vivid detail, and that shark is a composite sketch the experts themselves keep redrawing. So here is where it actually stands. The one thing we can hold in our hands, the teeth, is real and enormous. Almost everything downstream of that, the shape, the length, the weight, the exact silhouette you started this video picturing, is a reconstruction that has changed twice in the last 3 years and is still moving. The megalodon in your head, the giant great white, is not a fact. It is a placeholder. It was drawn from the nearest living shark because that was the best anyone could do. It was repeated until it felt like certainty, and when 2 scientists finally checked the number underneath it, the number did not even agree with itself. The largest shark that ever lived is still, in the most literal sense, a shape we are guessing at. We just have better guesses now, and the people doing the guessing will be the first to tell you they are not finished.